So, Michael, day two at Ignite, and we're spending some more time drilling into more of the care and feeding. And I think one of those big topics that folks are excited to understand better is Update Manager and how Azure Update Manager is taking over for the way that customers would manage not just the physical hosts, but the workloads on top of them in their Azure local deployment experience. Can you take us through that just a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So in the past, you would have used something like SCCM to be
Hmm.
able to do this work, and you would have to set up SCCM, that big old System Center solution with SQL clustering and then distribution points and everything. But
Yep.
we've moved towards Azure as that control plane. And so with Azure Update Manager, we've been providing updates to Azure virtual machines for several years. But what we've got now with Azure Arc is now all those Azure Arc resources come along for the ride. And now what I can do with Azure Update Manager is I can single-handedly manage updates across my estate, whether they're Azure or Arc-enabled machines, virtual machines, physical machines, Azure Local, whatever they may be, all from this centralized control plane. And so Azure Update Manager is this powerful tool that allows me to scan, report, and initiate scheduled updates across my estate. And so here you can quickly see, as we're in the Azure Update Manager, we see the current state of my machines. I got some work to do. It's the middle of the month, and it looks like I've got a lot of failed updates or some updates that need to be applied. So it's time for me to make this tool work for me. Now, first I'll dive into the infrastructure. Now, Azure
Hmm.
Local uses Azure Update Manager exclusively. This is the way that you patch your Azure local instances. And it does that with a cluster aware manner. So we're always respecting the virtual machine workloads. So when 25.11 releases here in a couple of weeks, this is how you will apply it, right? And so you can see currently the state of my Azure local estate instances. So you can see, in this case, the one we're operating is mobile, and you can see it's right now it's up to date. It's running 25.10. There hasn't been a last successful update because we just built this cluster. But as new updates come, you'll see the updates show up and they can be available. So in this case, Dallas is available, and I can initiate a one-time update. And there are plans to bring a scheduled maintenance to Azure Local. Now, diving into the workloads, which is a little more important in this case, right? The
Hmm.
workloads is a massive undertaking. In my case, I have way more VM workloads that I have to manage. And I also have all those Azure VMs that are along for the ride. So here you can see I have about 144 virtual machines that I'm managing with this. 109 of them have updates that are needed, and 2 of them are in an unsupported state. So I only got a small number that I don't have to do any work on. But 109, I got to go check for updates. Now I can do that by simply selecting these VMs and using the filtering to my capability to do a full check for update scan. And that's great. And then after that update scan comes in and I see them in this state of one pending update or two or whatever, I can initiate a one-time update. Now that's good to get the cybersecurity team off my back, but I need to do this in a repeatable fashion. So this
Right.
is where we introduce maintenance configurations. And so here you can see I have a couple different maintenance configurations. I have this default updates one, or I have a domain controllers because I want to separate my domain controllers and do those in an orchestrated fashion. So I can use maintenance events and maintenance update or maintenance configurations to schedule these. And so here you can see that, I'm scheduled this at the beginning of October to happen on the first Sunday of every month. So at the time of this recording, it just happened a few days ago, and it runs for almost 4 hours, right? That's the maintenance window. And so it's going to go through onto the resources that are assigned to this. Now, as new resources get built or removed or decommissioned, the dynamic scope is going to help me maintain that relationship. And so now I have a dynamic scope that is defined, and it's going to go look out for these resources. In this case, agnostic of the resource group, we are looking for virtual machines or Azure Arc enabled servers that are running Linux or Windows. And then we can even do things like VMs with certain tags, right? Or things like that, where we can define out what these look like. That will dynamically add them to this maintenance configuration, which would then go through that. And then, just like you would with SCCM, you get a history where I could see, the update that ran on the 2nd of this month partially succeeded. And now I've got that rich telemetry data to dive in and see what exactly happened with that. So I can go figure out what went good, what went bad, and what do I need to look at. Was it a simple internet issue? Was it something where the updates are failing for a known issue that I need to dive into? But the power is all here. And then this is dived into events where these events can then be automated to ServiceNow through integration through Azure Monitor so that I can create tickets, get those looked at, and get my lower level teams to dig in and see, why did the updates fail last night? Instead of going and initiating the updates, let the automation do that and let the alerting tell me what went wrong.
So interestingly to all of this and kind of to wrap things up, Michael, I know that there's way too much content to cover in 5-ish minutes, but
Sure.
what would a customer be thinking about when they look at the compliancy and need to see like reporting and alerting data, just to sort of wrap us up on this topic?
Yeah, so reporting is kind of the next key major thing you have to do. Like after you've got the configuration going and you've got the updates going, I need to be able to report up to my management whether or not those updates were successful and then go to change review boards, right? So the monitoring reports that are built in for free are giving you that information. And so as you're getting that information, you can then quickly see and even create those alert rules, like I said, to then trigger through webhooks or runbooks system now or email or text notification on what those alerts should be doing. So these reports are actually your next best friend to understanding how the updates are going. So you can quickly see here, I've got definition updates or update rollups, cumulative updates, and the stance on those classifications, their severity, and the number of versions I have to get deployed out for this. So it's kind of an holistic view. And the last thing I'd love to leave you with is Azure Update Manager is the standard of updates for Azure Local, and it should quickly become the standard of updates for your hybrid virtual machines.
Makes sense. And this was a really great, just kind of fast paced walk through it. I know we're going to spend some time in some of our other sessions talking about monitoring and management and stuff as well. So looking forward to those conversations next.
Yeah, can't wait.
Right,
Thanks.
thanks.